Biden signs the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill, Schumer abandons the Me Too movement, and judge reinstates the third-degree murder charge in the George Floyd police officer trial. This is your March 12th Not So News update. Please like and subscribe if you're looking for your daily news content, and let's dive on in. Starting us off, we have ABC News reporting on the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that was signed by or that's expected to be signed, the COVID relief bill. What we see is the President Joe Biden marked a major victory Thursday, signing the American Rescue Plan into law. So they did sign it a day early. The first legislative win of his presidency 7 weeks after taking office, and on the 1-year anniversary of COVID-19 being declared by its pandemic by the WHO. I just want to wish everyone a happy 53rd week on the 2 weeks to slow the spread. The nearly $2 trillion COVID stimulus legislation has been the administration's highest priority in the beginning days of the Biden presidency, seeking to go big to get the virus under control and get relief directly into the hands of most Americans in the form of the $1,400 checks. Something to note here is the roughly $2 trillion expense split between the roughly 390 odd some million Americans ends up being that it is an average of $6,000 per individual, which means the $1,400 checks are only a quarter of the actual spending, if you think about it that way. But you also have to remember that a significant chunk of individuals are not getting checks at all. I believe it ended up being if you made over $80,000 a year, you would not be getting any checks whatsoever. One of the other things that's getting a bit of drawback is being reported here by Fox News in this COVID-19 stimulus bill. Farmers react to billions in COVID-19 relief bill for black farmers. Where did common sense go? So in the article, Fox reports the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package that President Biden is set to sign includes billions of dollars in debt relief and other assistance for farmers of color, but the incorporation of race-based criteria for that relief is leaving other farmers scratching their heads. Just because you're a certain color, you don't have to pay back money. I don't care if you're purple, black, yellow, white, gray. If you borrow money, you have to pay it back. Kelly Griggs, who runs her 1,800-acre farm with her husband in Tennessee, told Fox News. My reaction is, where did common sense go? Griggs says, we can't strike, we can't stop. That is the part that really sucks. These people in Washington who make decisions for us and our livelihood have probably never stepped foot on a real farm. The relief package includes an estimated $4 billion to pay up to 120% of Black, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American farms' outstanding debt as of January 1st, according to the American Farm Bureau Federation. I'm really looking for anyone to make the case that farms of colors were disproportionately affected by COVID. From everything we've seen reported, the biggest factors when it came to COVID like financial impacts were one being in a rural versus urban environment, which if you're on a farm, you do not really need to worry about. And the second was health factors, aka did you have a overweight issue, diabetes, etc. As far as I understand, the amount of melanoma in your skin had no fact whatsoever in how the COVID virus affected you, or coronavirus affected you. From the Federalist, we see that Chuck Schumer abandons Believe All Women with an eye roll over the Cuomo allegations. This is something we've been trying to follow for a while now, is that Andrew Cuomo was just given, I think, the 6th sexual harassment accuser as of yesterday. And in a interview with MSNBC, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer rolls his eyes when MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell tells him that after the break, they're going to be asking him some questions about the issue. Here's the couple seconds in question.
Tonight has new reporting on Governor Cuomo. I want to get your reaction to that. Please stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Obviously not the biggest of deals, but we have to remember how Schumer acted back when Brett Kavanaugh, who was running in the Supreme Court, also a very high official in terms of the government, was accused of similar sexual harassment claims.
Leader McConnell just said that
in this week, Brett Kavanaugh has no presumption of innocence.
Do you agree with that? And do you
We do this with every major nominee, and countless times, I think 10 times in the last year. When new information comes up, the FBI goes again and does its background check. This is standard operating procedure. And the question looms, why are our Republicans deviating from here? This is not a criminal trial. This is not this is to find the facts. You have two diametrically opposed stories. And there are two issues. A, which story is right? And if Dr. Ford is telling the truth, then Judge Kavanaugh's credibility is in great question.
So do you agree then that he has the, quote, presumption of innocence?
I agree that that's a criminal trial. What I believe is we ought to get to the bottom and find the facts in the way that the FBI has always done. There's no presumption of innocence or guilt when you have a nominee before you.
So remember, there is no presumption of innocence when it is a Republican, but we can just brush around allegations when they're going against a Democratic governor. Unlike Schumer, though, there are multiple Democrats in New York that are calling for Cuomo's resignation regarding both this sexual assault scandal as well as the issue with the nursing homes. The New York Post reports on the following. More than 55 Democratic state legislators called Thursday for Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign, and the Assembly Speaker said he would hold a meeting later in the day on potential paths forward. It's a statement for Cuomo's fellow Democrats cited both the spiraling sexual harassment allegations against him and the cover-up of the total nursing home deaths, and said that he has lost the confidence of the public and the state legislator, rendering him ineffective in this time of most urgent need. We have a lieutenant governor who can step in and lead for the remainder of the term, and this is what is best for New Yorkers in this critical time, the statement added. It is time for Governor Cuomo to resign. What we are seeing is, with the removal of Trump, we see the media establishment and establishment Democrats finally reining in their own Democrats. We have seen the similar things happening in California, and now we have a similar case happening in New York, where the Democratic officials are being finally held accountable to their own constituents. Another governor who's getting on the chopping block for the complete opposite thing is Governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, announces he is lifting all coronavirus restrictions. This is following a lot of other lockdown measures done in Mississippi and Texas, where they were removing mask mandates. The main thing that we are looking for around here is if there was any action done by legislators, and if a legislator ended up saying that there should be any restrictions, then that's fine. But we are now a year into this pandemic, and if the legislator hasn't been able to get their act together by now, obviously it is not what the people want. Reported by the Daily Caller, Republican Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt announced Thursday that he is removing all of the coronavirus restrictions in the state. Stitt's Friday executive order will mean that there will be no statewide restrictions on events on Oklahomans, including no mask requirements for Oklahoma's government buildings, the governor said in a news conference, according to The Hill. The standard for normal cannot be 0 cases, Stitt said, according to the report. In Oklahoma, the standard for normal is freedom. As long as I'm governor, I will protect the freedom of Oklahomans. The governor warned that COVID is still here and that we need to do our part. You can still, and you're even encouraged to wear a mask depending on your circumstances, he added. This just further shows the divide that's happening between red and blue states. If you remember, one of the first executive actions signed by President Biden was the mandate of masks on federal grounds, and we see in these red states the removal of mask mandates. What we see here is a further divide between the desire of blue and red states when it comes to any authoritarian action when it comes to the mask orders. We have from the Washington Times that Mississippi bans transgender athletes from women's sports. In an article, they state Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves signed a bill Thursday prohibiting transgender athletes from competing in women's sports, making the state the first this year to institute a transgender ban. The law likely will hit a legal challenge, but Mississippi won't be fighting alone. At least 20 states are considering a crackdown on the LGBT push into women's sports. Liberal advocacy groups called the law anti-trans and accuse Mississippi's Republican governor of discriminating against transgender children. I'm really wondering if this 20-state coalition will be able to fight the rest of the United States. It'll be interesting to see if we see a legal split similar to that we saw during the Civil War. This could be, one of the court cases. This could be the future Dred Scott decision happening. Finally, from NBC News, we see that a judge reinstates the third-degree murder charge against ex-cop Derek Chauvin in the George Floyd death. Derek Chauvin is already charged with second-degree murder, which carries a maximum sentence of 40 years, as well as second-degree murder. In the article, we see that Chauvin, who knelt on Floyd's neck for about 9 minutes, May 25th, is already charged with second-degree murder, which carries a maximum sentence of 40 years, as well as second-degree manslaughter. The third-degree murder charge carries a maximum sentence of 25 years. Cahill dismissed the charge last fall because he believed that the circumstances of Chauvin's case did not fit, but an appellate court ruling in an unrelated case established new grounds for it days before jury selection started. Cahill ruled at the time that a third-degree murder charge under Minnesota law requires proof that someone's conduct was eminently dangerous to others, not just to Floyd. Cahill said Thursday that he's now bound by a ruling stemming from recent decision involving the conviction of former officer Mohammed Noor, which stated that third-degree murder can be applied to acts directed towards a single person. I am granting the motion because although these cases are factually different, that is Noor and the case before us, I don't think it's a factual difference that weighs in favor of denying the notion to reinstate, Cahill said. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. There's been a lot of news regarding how the jurors do not feel that they can make a reasonable decision due to the presumption that if they find in favor of Derek Chauvin, that Minnesota will be on flames as a result of protests. And this is your March 12th Not So News update. Once again, please like and subscribe if you're looking for daily news content, and have a good one.